Hey, how are you doing? I hope you're good because we're going to be learning some math today. So, we're going to review order of operations. Order of operations. So, the method, the phrasing that I'm going to be using is GEMDAS. You may have also heard PEMDAS. Please excuse my dear Aunt Sally. You might have also heard PEMDAS, but I like GEMDAS better. The only difference is that G. Because that G reminds us that we're doing grouping. PEMDAS, the P means parentheses, but we have way more than just parentheses that we would do at first. We have parentheses, yes, but then we also have these brackets, we have braces, we have absolute value bars, we have a radical or a square root sign, and then there's fraction bars. All of those are types of grouping symbols that I might forget if I only do PEMDAS and I only think about parentheses. So like I said, we're going to use grouping symbols. We're going to use GEMDAS. So again, GEMDAS, the G stands for grouping symbols. My G. My grouping symbols. We have to do those first. We have to do those grouping symbols first. Then the E. Oh, sorry, let me write that down real quick. G is grouping. G is grouping. E. Anybody remember what E is? E are my exponents. My exponents. How many times do I multiply a number? So exponents, we have a few reminders. A few reminders for exponents. 5 to the 0 power, or any number to the 0 power. Remember, that's equal to 1. We had talked about this back with comparing and ordering numbers. If I have an exponent of 0, my answer is automatically going to be 1. And then if I have any number to the first power, or to the exponent of number, the answer is going to be that number. So 5 to the first power would be 5. 7 to the first power would be 7. 3,000 to the first power would be 3,000. So whatever number your bottom one is, your base one, if the exponent's 1, your answer is going to be that number. Let's do another example. It's like 7 to the first power, that's going to be equal to 7. 5 to the first power, that's going to be equal to 5. Again, those are our exponents. Those are our exponents. The M and the D, remember those are multiplying and dividing. They put those M and D on the same level because we do them in the same step from left to right. We do our multiplying and dividing in the same step, working from left to right. We already know how to multiply and divide, so we're not too terribly worried about that. And then our last one, our A and our S. Remember, those are for adding and subtracting. Our A and our S are adding and subtracting. Again, they're on the same level, so I'm going to do those steps at the same time. I'm going to do those steps at the same time from left to right. All right, so that was a quick review. Remember GEMDAS. GEMDAS are grouping, our exponents, multiplying, dividing, adding, and subtracting. So let's go through some examples. Okay, so this first example, we have 1 plus the absolute value of -9 minus 5, absolute value squared, parentheses, minus 12 plus 24. Order of operations, again, we're doing GEMDAS. GEMDAS. It really has helped my students in the past when they write it at the top of their papers to help them remember the order that your work should go in. So remember, first we have our grouping, that G. We have parentheses, brackets, braces, absolute value, the radical symbol, or the square root sign, and fraction bars for grouping. So if I come here, do I have grouping? Darn tootin' I do. I have grouping with parentheses and my absolute value signs. So with that, how do I know which one to do first? I want to work from the inside out when I'm working with multiple sets of grouping symbols. So first, the most inner part, I want to do that absolute value. So I need to do -9 minus 5. So if I use my handy dandy calculator, I have -9 minus 5. And I get -14. But I gotta remember, it's in those absolute value bars. So to type that, you see where it has the absolute value bars around the A? If I put my absolute value bars around that section, now I get my right answer. So I would get 14. So looking at my problem, I still have that parenthesis from before. I'm still gonna have to take 1 plus, we already calculated the absolute value of that to be 14. Then I have my exponent, my parenthesis, and then I still have that minus 12 plus 24. You can't forget that last part. Some people forget about it because they get so focused on the stuff in the parentheses, but we still are gonna have to do that at the end. So now I still have that one set of parentheses. I need to do the math that's in there. So would I add first, or would I do my exponent first? What would I do first inside that parenthesis? I'm just going to keep going through my order of operations. So inside my grouping, do I have any exponents? I do. I have the second power right there. So I need to do that multiplication first, that exponent, before I add. So 14 squared, that's 14 times 14. The squared button is right there. 14 squared, they tell me, is 196. I still have my math inside the parentheses I have to do. I still am going to have to add that 1. And again, I got to subtract 12 and add 24. Still have now inside those parentheses, we did our exponents in the parentheses. Is there any multiplying or dividing in my parentheses? Nope. Is there any adding and subtracting in my parentheses? Yes. So now I'm going to add inside my parentheses. Inside my parentheses, what's 1 plus 196? 197. And we can't forget at the end. We have to subtract 12 and add 24. Am I done with my grouping now? Yeah, I'm done with my grouping. There's no other math to go inside those parentheses. Is there any exponents in here? In all of it? Nope. Is there any multiplying or dividing in there? Nope. Now we just have adding and subtracting. Remember, for your adding and subtracting, we work left to right. So we're going to have to type this. We can type this in our calculator, or we can do it by ourselves. 197 minus 12 plus 24. Oh, Andrea. Minus 12 plus 24 we get 209. Go ahead and try typing this whole thing in your calculator and see if you get the same answer. So we can also do this in our calculator. I have my parentheses, so that's on the bottom left. Parentheses 1 plus my absolute value of -9 minus 5. I have to arrow outside of my absolute value, square it, so hit that A to the second power button, arrow over to get outside my parentheses, and then I subtract 12 plus 24, and I still get that 209. You can type the whole thing in your calculator like this as long as there's no division. With Desmos, when it gets to division, it does the numerator and the denominator, and that will mess up your math. We'll see that in a later problem, but one like this one you can do just fine without the calculator. Let's go ahead and go on to our next problem. Our next one, we have 5 to the third power minus 5 over -2 plus 6 squared minus 8. Again, going through our order of operations, what would we do first? Our grouping. What grouping do we have in this problem? We have that fraction bar as our grouping sign here. So that means I have to do the top part by itself, and then I have to do the bottom part by itself before I divide. So let's go ahead and do that. The top part by itself, I have 5 to the third power. Again, the exponent is that A to the B button. 5 to the third power minus 5, and I get 120. So my top part is 120 divided by my bottom part. So that's -2 plus 6 squared. Oh, Andrea, I'm just getting bigger and deeper into that rabbit hole. There we go. 6 squared minus 8. And I get 26. So now I have this fraction bar, but I've done all the math up top. I've done all the math on the bottom. So now, no exponents. I go into multiplying and dividing. Remember, top and bottom, that means that we're dividing. So now I want to do 120 divided by 26. And I get that ugly, ugly, ugly decimal. I get the number 4.615 blah, 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 blah. Do you think that's what they're going to want for our final answer? Probably not. They're probably going to want us to simplify our fraction. Remember, to simplify a fraction, what you want to do is divide the numerator and the denominator by a common factor. So I see 120 and 26. Right off the bat, I see they end in a 0 and a 6. That makes them even numbers. So what number goes into even numbers perfectly? 2. So I'm going to divide my numerator by 2. I'm going to divide my denominator by 2. And let's see what I get. I'm going to do 120 divided by 2. And I get 60 for my numerator. And then 26 divided by 2 for my denominator. And I get 13. Can I simplify 60 over 13? Thirteen's a prime number, so the only way I could simplify that more is if 13 goes into 60. Let's see, if I do 60 divided by 13, That's that really ugly decimal that we got from before when we simplify that. So that means I can't divide the numerator and my denominator by anything anymore. So my final answer is going to be 60 over 13. 60 over 13. Okay, we've got one more practice problem. One more practice problem. So we have the square root of 4 plus 12 divided by 2 squared plus 7 minus 3. We're going to go rogue on this one and try it without the calculator. Because again, it's totally fine if we use calculators to help us with our work. But again, it's important that we know how to do the math without the calculator. So let's do this one without the calculator. So thinking about my GEMDAS, the first thing I need to do is my grouping. Do I have any grouping symbols in this problem? I do. Ooh. Kel loves orange soda. I have the square root. I have to do that math that's underneath the square root first. That's a grouping symbol. So I'm going to need to add what's underneath that square root. So what is 4 plus 12? 16. I have my 16, and I need to divide it by 2 squared plus 7 minus 3. Can we simplify the square root of 16? What is the square root of 16? 4. That's a review from that first unit we had with the perfect squares and square roots. So now I need to do 4 divided by 2 squared plus 7 minus 3. Is there any more grouping symbols for me to do? No more grouping symbols. What is my next step for order of operations? Exponents. Do we have any exponents here? We sure do. We have 2 to the second power. Remember, 2 to the second power means that I have 2 times 2. I multiply that big number that many times. So I multiply 2 times. What is 2 times 2? 4. So now I have that 4 from before divided by our new 4 plus 7 minus 3. Do we have any more exponents? What's our next step? Multiplying and dividing. Do I have any multiplying and dividing here? Yeah, right there. 4 divided by 4. What is 4 divided by 4? Pause the video and take a second if you need to do the circles and put the dots in. What is 4 divided by 4? 1. So now I have my 1. I need to add 7 and subtract 3. Is there any more multiplying and dividing? Nope. So my last step, adding and subtracting. Do I have any adding and subtracting here? We do. We have both. We have 1 adding and 1 subtracting. How do I know which one to do first? We work left to right. Left to right. So, what is 1 plus 7? 8. And then we have to subtract that 3. What is 8 minus 3? girl, what did I do? Ha! 8 minus 3. 1, 2, 3. We have 5 for our answer. Yay! Again, you can do it with the calculator. That's totally fine. We can do it with the calculator. Let's see what that would look like. Slide my paper over. I could do the square root of 4 plus 12. Then I move my cursor over so it's outside of the square root. Divided by, 2 squared. That doesn't look right, does it? It still gives me that 1. 4 squared plus 12 divided by 2 squared. That's all that bit. So I do get that part right. This one doesn't look so good in the calculator, does it? So I would need to use then that 1, and then I would add my 7 and subtract 3. And I still get 5. The Desmos calculator is what you call a scientific calculator. That means it's smart. It knows order of operations. It knows order of operations. So it did the adding before it did the square root. Only scientific calculators like Desmos, or you might have seen calculators like this, they know order of operations. They are scientific. So double check your work on paper with your calculator. But remember, either way works. Either way works. If you have questions, let us know.